Genetic testing is becoming a life-saving tool for cancer treatment and prevention.
It allows us to do extra screening and possibly do preventative surgeries, which would ultimately potentially prevent a cancer from happening in the first place.
It's a test that Trisha says could have made a difference for her.
I had also let her know that my father had passed away from pancreatic cancer and that he was BRCA positive, which is a gene mutation. I feel like immediately that should have sent up a red flag, or at least opened the door to a conversation.
Gene mutations BRCA1 and BRCA2 are considered high-risk genetic abnormalities that carry a higher risk of developing breast cancer. And after her stage 4 terminal cancer diagnosis, Trisha finds out she has a CHEK2 gene mutation, one that causes a moderate risk of breast cancer.
Go get that genetic testing. If you have it or not, go get it. It's so important, and I never realized that until now. Let's say right now, if I have cancer and I don't get my genetic testing, I'm gonna be in the same boat as my mom.
The hardest part for cancer patients is the unknown.
That was the same thought gynecological oncology nurse Kelsey Kendig had. She was a teenager when her mother passed away from cancer.
My mom was a healthy 45-year-old woman who had regular mammograms every year. And one year she went and she had a bad mammogram, got a cancer diagnosis of triple negative breast cancer. And that quickly, it was maybe 18 months later, and she died Christmas Eve.
Then, after feeling a lump at 16, Kelsey did her own research.
I'm gonna get tested, and if I have this gene, I'm getting my breast removed. And people thought I was crazy.
Years later, a genetic test revealed she had the BRCA gene. And in January of 2018, at 24 years old, Kelsey had a prophylactic or preventative mastectomy.
I didn't think that sitting around and waiting, it just wasn't an option for me. I couldn't do it.
It's a small world for Kelsey and Trisha, who knew each other as kids.
So my best friend, we grew up together, and her older sister is actually best friends with Trisha.
And they met unexpectedly again when Trisha came to the infusion room where Kelsey was working as a registered nurse.
I knew what she was going to go through. I knew the hardships that she was going to face with coming to treatment and trying to raise her daughter and her other children, and how much she was going to be missing and sacrificing.
Both say it was a full circle moment, seeing the differences in their experiences.
It's always been hard for me to see young people in the infusion room, and it's even worse when it's someone that you know.
WellSpan's genetic counselor Amanda Matchett says science and technology have evolved to where labs detect more than 99% of mutations with accurate and reliable results.
When I first started, we were really only maybe looking at the BRCA genes. We're able to test, 75 genes at once.
The earliest you can get a genetic test is at 18 years old with a referral from a provider.
We typically do a blood sample, so it's usually 1 or 2 small tubes of blood. We can also do a saliva sample.
Though some may be afraid to find out about a gene mutation, the results lead to extra screenings and preventative options.
Why it's so important for you to be tested and your children. It doesn't just affect your children, it will ultimately affect your children's children and their children.
Say something to your provider and say, I want a referral to consider genetic testing.
And that form of self-advocacy is what Trisha and Landon encourage families to do.
The fact that all this could have been prevented if we just said one thing to the doctor has kind of been a really big impact.
They need to advocate for themselves. If you feel something is off with your health, don't stop and don't give up.